I am live. Hey everyone, my name is Alexander Sparrow. I am half of the theatre company Sparrow and Boyle Entertainment, and today we are bringing you a solo version of the Shakespeare classic, Much Ado About Nothing. I'm just going to take a couple of minutes waiting for people to join the live video. So if you have anything you want to comment during the show, just chuck that in the comments, and if I have time while playing 16 different characters, trying to remember my place, remember the props, and remember what the hell I'm doing, I'll try and mention you during the course of the show as well. Before we get started, I'll just let you know a little bit about why we chose this play. So our theatre company is made up of me, Alexander Sparrow, and Katie Boyle. We both do stand-up, character comedy, and live Shakespeare performances as well. We tour all over New Zealand, and at some point in the future as well, we're looking at heading overseas, and we're getting into filmmaking as well. Much Ado we chose because Shakespeare is not only great, but also royalty-free. And if you choose Much Ado, then you don't have to worry so much about character double-ups and, people pretending to be other people. You don't have to worry about twins and so on. My sister, Jen, has commented saying, flash your titties. I'm not going to do that. We'll see who else comments. It's 3:02 now. I'd say at around 3:03, maybe 3:05, we're going to start recording. So the way that we sort of set this up, set our company up, was Merry Wives. The Merry Wives of Windsor was the first solo Shakespeare that we did. I directed Katie in that, and we cut that so it was an hour and a half, including an interval, and toured that all over New Zealand. Much Ado, we haven't had the opportunity to tour quite so much yet. We took it up and had a full 5-night season of it at Lucky Bar and Kitchen in Whanganui, and had a lot of fun there. And we also did it in Wellington as well, but we're hoping to get to a lot more places once the COVID-19 pandemic has calmed down, or at least we're back in level 2 or some better level. Right. Okay. Well, we've got 4 people here. It's still 3:02. This is a totally new thing for me. Obviously, I'm usually performing this live in front of an audience, so I've got sort of a bit of feedback out there. So like I say, if you want to heckle in the form of commenting, that is totally fine, and we'll see how we can bring you into the show. This video will be recorded and put on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel with a couple of minor edits. So just before I start, there is going to be a slightly awkward pause so that Katie has something to edit into before we start the play proper. All right. So there's 16 characters in this. I'm playing all of them. I haven't done this play live since maybe October last year. Abby says, what was the rehearsal process like? I will answer that question, Abby, in the interval. So, okay, Abby, Jen, and whoever the other 4 people now, let's do this, shall we? So we'll start off, and I'm going to be Leonardo. So, during the interval, I'll give you a quick sort of peek into what our process is in rehearsals, how we took the show on tour, and what we're looking forward to in the future. So with this show, the main thing was making sure, thanks Abby for the applause, the main thing in doing this show was making sure that everything was really clear, that the story was cut in a way that still made sense, that if we needed to cut any characters, that any plot points that they were involved with were still kept if they were essential, and basically just making sure that anybody that hasn't seen a Shakespeare before can totally understand everything that's going on. So this is a live reading. Obviously, I can see, Jen, Abby, Kat, and Ryan, and Kate. Hey, Kate. And also Emma. Hey, how's it going? Thanks for watching. This is live and I can see your comments, but it's obviously very different to performing it on stage. One thing that I've realized doing it right now, just in front of a computer screen, is that because I can't move around, I realize how much or how important blocking is for helping me remember what character I'm playing and what part of the play I'm up to. So for anybody that doesn't, hey Kat, I did say hey to Kat and Ryan, but I'm also saying hey to Kat again because she asked. So blocking, for anybody that's not an actor or involved in theatre, blocking is where you stand or move on the stage as you're performing the show. So when we were rehearsing, we cut the play so that it was a version that I could realistically perform in an hour 15, an hour and a half. And then I just smashed through the lines. It took several weeks anyway. I usually perform solo shows that I write, whether that's stand-up, like my show, The Provocateur, or my character comedy, like DJ Trump or Enigma, Fred from Featherston, Desard. And when you write something, it's way easier to cover if you get it wrong. So you probably would have seen in that first half, there were little bits here and there where I needed to have a quick peek at the script and remember who was coming up next. But basically, once the lines were down, we immediately jumped into blocking the thing. That helps work out what the show's going to look like, what possible set and props we might need during the show. Because we're always on tour, Katie Boyle is my director, because we're on tour a lot, we need to make sure that the stuff that we want to include in the show is something that we can easily fit in a car or in a caravan. So over the course of this show, when it's performed live, we have things like masks. We've got a plague doctor mask here from Venice, and this one's kind of a different mask. On the inside, it usually this kind of mask has a button, so the wearer holds it with their mouth. So it's a kind of a mute mask, which I thought was kind of interesting to have one of those characters wearing. But yeah, we just have masks and maybe a letter that we take on the road. When we do Katie's Merry Wives, we take a washing basket and some sheets. I'm a big fan of Shakespeare and modern dress. I think it's really good when these plays that are 400 years old are made as accessible as possible. So when we're performing them live, we've got a lot of crowd work, we've got a lot of ad-libbing. If somebody's maybe a little bit tipsy and we're performing in a bar at the back of the room and they yell something out, we're definitely okay with responding to that in character. That kind of stuff is a lot of fun and what brings Shakespeare to life for us and also for the audience. So it is very odd performing this show that's so reliant on crowd work to a live audience, but it's awesome having you all here. I think we've got 10 people at the moment. So should do a quick pitch before we crack on to the second half. Level 4 especially, but also level 3 alerts in New Zealand because of the coronavirus pandemic have meant that Katie and I have been unable to tour our usual live shows. So as soon as level 2 was announced, we had a bunch of stand-up gigs, MC gigs, and headline spots around the country that got pulled or postponed or cancelled, which means income wasn't coming in there. Shows that we wanted to tour, like my stand-up show, like this Shakespeare, Katie's Pat Goldsack character, all of our usual live performance work we haven't been able to do. So that's obviously had ups and downs. One of the great things is that it's forced us to look at how we can interact with our audiences and get seen by a wider crowd. So we've done a couple of our shows live now. This is the second one, Alexander Sparrow, Much Ado About Nothing. We also did Katie Boyle in the Merry Wives of Windsor last week, and we're going to be bringing you a solo Shakespeare, I'd say a new one, at least once a fortnight, possibly weekly if we can make that happen. We also produce videos in character, and if you want to see those, just check out our YouTube link, or if you want to get them sent straight to your inbox along with other details of stuff that we're doing, just go to sparrowandboyle.com. That's Sparrow like the bird, and then AND Boyle, BOYLE.com, and down the bottom of the homepage, you can sign up for our newsletter. That goes out once a week. It's got all of our new YouTube videos. It's got potential plans for touring. We are getting into short film as well, and there will be some quite big announcements coming up later in the year that we would love our friends, family, followers, and audiences to be a part of. So join our newsletter. So I'm doing this show live. It's totally free. But if you did want to make a small monthly contribution to help keep us ticking over and keep us able to perform and make art and entertain you during this really insane period in history, really, you can make a payment through our Patreon, and the link for that is in the description, or you can make a one-off payment to our bank account. Honestly, anything works. There's an option on Patreon for like $1 a month, and if enough people do that, then that's a real help. $5 or 10. If you want to drop whatever, think of it as kind of like we're busking right now, and if you want to throw something in the hat, it's absolutely going to help us as we develop more work into the future. So we've got 11 people here. I'm gonna have a really quick drink. I haven't had a drink yet. So we're going to get started on the second half, maybe in a minute or two. If you have any questions, if you want to find out about touring or about our company, about other shows that we do, what it's like directing Katie, or anything like that, or how you could be further involved in our work, just drop us a comment, and we're going to have a Q&A in the second half. So, after the second half. Right. Okay. So. Okay, God. Okay, shall we crack on to the second half? Okay, good. So we did it. We got that out of the way. So thank you so much to the people that are still watching. In the comments, I've got Jen, Sparrow, I've got Abby, Ryan, Emma, Catriona, Kate. I think that's everyone. Thank you to everybody that stuck around and watched the whole thing. Thank you to people that are going to watch this in the future, or that are watching it right now on YouTube or on Facebook. So what we're going to do now is have a quick Q&A. If you want to, if you have any questions about the play, about our other shows, about Shakespeare, about performing in comedy or tragedy or anything like that you want to ask, chuck a question in the comments, and we will take it from there. Thank you, Abby and Ryan. Thanks very much. And Emma as well. Thank you. And Jen. Yay, it's done. I will start off just by talking about where I found some of the voices for the characters. So I'll have a look at the script and see who's in there. So obviously, I needed to find voices that were totally different. Hey, Graham Reaper, thanks very much for coming along and watching. So, character voices. I usually find that differentiating people between accents is a really clear way of making sure that that audiences can tell the different characters apart. Normally, obviously, when I'm performing this, standing up for one, but also with an audience, I can do a lot more with posture and with gesture, and the play is fully rehearsed and been toured for a couple of weeks, rather than being done as a reading after a break and being done on YouTube. So we did decide, Katie and I, that the voices needed to be really different. I'm just thinking. Leonardo, who sounds a bit like this, he started off, I think, a little bit as an Ian McKellen impersonation, and then turned into Brian Blessed a little bit. So that's where I got this voice from. That's Leonardo. And Don Pedro. Don Pedro's a bit of a bloody blokey New Zealand character. He hasn't got any real basis in fact or in truth. but I just tried to do as strong a New Zealand or Australian, I suppose, accent as I could, so that those two could be told apart. Don John, who is Don Pedro's brother, he started off a little bit as Tim Curry. So I started speaking like this and found the hand naturally moved up here. That's where Don John came from. For Beatrice, that was just a bit of a suppose Cockney kind of accent. I saw Much Ado done live in London, performed by David Tennant as Benedict and Catherine Tate as Beatrice. We wanted and we have a totally different feel to our live performances, and obviously in this reading as well. But that seemed like a good accent to be able to tell them apart. Hero is just speaking like this normal voice that I can maintain, and her maid Margaret. Her maid Margaret is the same, but with a bit of an American accent, so you can tell them apart. The friar speaks like this, which sounds probably a bit Irish, but was also based in OP, which is original pronunciation of Shakespeare. It's what some linguists have sort of pieced together from clues in the text and from language and pronunciation dictionaries that still exist from the time about what they think OP would have sounded like. I'll tell you right now, the biggest challenge that I've found in that show is any scene where the friar, who is Irish/OP, and Claudio, who is Scottish, appear together. Why did I do that? I don't know. I still think it's a mistake, but I haven't changed it. I think those are probably the main characters. There's also Baracchio. Baracchio sounds like this. And there is a cartoon online called YOLO, which if you're under 18, you shouldn't watch. But if you're over 18, you definitely should. And he reminds, I think the Baracchio character came from the bouncer outside the club. And that, you ladies ready to have a good time tonight? My name's Baracchio. I've got a plan. So those are where those voices came from. Any questions in the comments? I'm just seeing who's there. So many to scroll through. Okay. What? Oh, I'm getting tech directions from my director, Katie Boyle. Okay. Right. Okay. So, also the costume. Yes, this costume looks very similar to the costume that Katie wore last week in Merry Wives, because it is exactly the same costume. We have, is it the same costume? No. Okay. So when I did Much Ado, which came after Merry Wives in our company repertoire, I used the same Shakespeare costume as Katie. So Katie had done about 45 performances of Merry Wives, and we absolutely wash it between every performance. But this shirt, if we hadn't washed it, would be potent. It is a not breathable fabric. It gets quite hot on that stage. Katie does a lot more running around than I do, but that's totally fine. When we went down to do this to do Merry Wives, for the first time, we took the shows down to Invercargill, and when we got there, we had a few days that we were going to be there, and then a 5-day gap between that and the second performance. And so we were just going to rent a costume and then see about getting one made. And then we were really lucky that a certain costume shop down there, who shall remain nameless because they're not meant to sell stuff, decided to sell us that costume. So if you're watching, thank you very much for that. Emma says she can confirm that shirt is a sauna. We wear it for a bunch of things. Sometimes it gets around friends who do kids' parties and stuff as well. So let me have a look. I would say the best part of touring is feeling like a show that I've spent a lot of time working on and perfecting is getting seen by a reasonable amount of people. I find a lot of the time, if you're doing shows with, say, the last time I did a show with a repertory or Amdram group was about, 4 years ago or something. But I love doing group shows, but it feels like a real shame when you practice for weeks, several weeks, sometimes a couple of months, and you finish your maybe 4 or 5 or 6 night season, and then the show's done. You have to retire it because the cast members have day jobs or they're moving on to the next thing. When we do a touring solo show, we can do the show as many times as we like, and so it's really rewarding getting the show to a stage where it's totally ready to go before we do our first performance, and then at the end of the tour, it can end up being a totally different performance. There will be parts where the crowd is going to jump in more than you did when you did the show for the first time. Or you can set up certain situations in the crowd or set seating up in certain ways. You can just move things around and have a play over the course of a season. And every time you do a show, it gets better and better every time. Whether it's a big crowd or a small crowd, you can always learn something. And so if you're touring, you can absolutely learn the maximum amount as an actor and as a tour manager. Okay. Catriona has said, what's your Shakespeare character? What Shakespeare character am I most like? Katie has just said Dogberry. Who's the guy that speaks like this? Okay. So Kat, really quickly, and also anybody else that's watching, the Dogberry voice, who is the constable, he's the night watch and has no idea what the hell he's doing. He is that voice came from a character of mine called Fred from Featherstone, and you can see more videos of that character on our YouTube channel. And Katie, my director, said that the Shakespeare character I'm most like is Dogberry, which I think is horrible and maybe true. I don't know. I think I think maybe Benedict in real life. I think I like to sort of make jokes a lot, and I like a bit of back and forth with people and sort of playful insults. And if I'm doing a show, I like to have people heckle and yell things out so I can throw something back at them and sort of bring the audience into the show. I kind of feel like that's sort of what I would like to think I do in life as well. Like if I'm meeting somebody for the first time, I will absolutely say something off color or maybe slightly questionable to see if I can get a rise or sort of work out where their sense of humor sits and whether or not I think we're going to get on. That would be who I would pick. Okay, Abby says, where is your favorite place to perform? That's really hard because we've performed all over the place, and there are certain ones. We've kind of got our sort of touring track sorted, although with the whole COVID-19 thing, I am definitely hoping that all of those venues are still going to be open. So while we're talking about the virus, Katie and I haven't been able to tour our shows. We just did a live reading of our solo version of Shakespeare's Much Ado About Nothing. If you wanted to sign up for our Patreon and chuck us a small amount monthly to sort of help us keep ticking over and making YouTube videos and shooting videos like this one, that would be amazing. Or if you just want to do a one-off payment, you've got our bank account details in the description as well. That sort of stuff, just tiny amounts regularly coming in from a bunch of people, makes it easier for us to keep going in this really difficult time where live performance is an impossibility. And I will say on behalf of, basically every venue that we've been to around the country, those places are amazing. There's a reason that we return to all of those places often, and it's because they're highly supportive of artists. Often they make amazing food, have great atmosphere, good drinks and everything. So when things are safe, go out, go to your local bars, go to your theaters, go see touring shows, and just keep the arts going, because this stuff is important. I'd say my favorite place in Wellington to perform, absolutely no question, is Cabin Club. I've done I'd say probably coming up to a couple of hundred solo shows live now. and about 35 of them would be at Cabin Club in Wellington. It's a great little 70-seater bar, just kind of like a slight basement feel, just the perfect place for comedy. In Auckland, I really liked Tiny Theatre at Garnet Station. Uh, in Picton, there's Picton Little Theatre. Honestly, there's so many great places, and I love all of those. But Cabin Club is definitely my comedy home, I would say. Um, Ryan says, "Where's my least favorite place to perform?" Well, if you're including videos, I would say outside. Shooting outside and trying to record sound is dreadful. I wouldn't want to necessarily name a particular venue that has been bad, but I would say there's not really any bad venues that we've been to. There are more places that aren't ideally suited for the kind of shows we want to do. So if we're doing like a big community hall and I'm on a massively raised stage and I want to have a back and forth with the crowd, that stage automatically puts a barrier between me and everybody else. So I'd say I prefer sort of cozier, maybe 50 to 100 seater venues. Ryan, have you ever struck a deal and then regretted it? Like a Merchant of Venice scenario. Uh, I have worked on projects that I found a challenge previously, and I'll leave it there. I was supposed to say Luke Scott's Little Theatre of Big Dreams, but okay. Oh, right, I understand. Yeah. Emma has said that I should mention Luke Scott's Little Theatre of Big Dreams, which is a brand new little Wellington theatre in a friend's flat. I don't know why she wants me to mention it as one of my least favourite venues because I really like performing there, Emma. I don't know what problem you have with it, but that's okay. Where people can find out more. So we've got a lot of different social media channels. We've got Facebook, which will be what you're watching through, watching this through at the moment. We've also got a YouTube channel. We have a company Instagram. My director, Katie Boyle, also has her own Instagram, and I have a personal Instagram for my writing. And also for shows and things. You can find the details for all of those on our website, which is sparrowandboyle.com. Sparrow like the bird, A-N-D, Boyle, B-O-Y-L-E.com. And if you go down to the bottom of the homepage, you can sign up for our newsletter. It just comes out once a week. It's got, we produce weekly comedy videos in character as Pat Goldsack, who's an 87-year-old that runs New Zealand's one and only and best touring swingers club and brothel. We've got Fred from Featherston, who's Featherston's former #1 male model. We do the occasional Trump video as well. We do all sorts and send those straight to your inbox so you don't miss a one. That's where you can get more details. Catriona, what Shakespeare character would you bonk and why? This one, I'm trying to think. I want to say somebody from Othello, but I don't think I can. I don't know. Like, Othello is absolutely my favorite Shakespeare play. I think it's amazing. And when somebody said before, like, what Shakespeare character am I like? I immediately went Iago, which I don't think is true. I don't think I'm a manipulative D-bag. But at the same time, I think if you take the positives of Iago, I'd probably apply that, which is sort of being able to get on well with a really diverse, interesting, wide selection of people. And yeah, Othello is my favorite. What was it? I've gone on a tangent. Which one would I bonk? You know what? I like a sassy lady. I just do. I like people that kind of throw something back and can kind of exchange the witty banter better than anybody else. And so I suppose Beatrice would be up there. Beatrice, sure, we'll go with that. Okay, I'd like to say thank you also to the people. This is just the latest record, so if you've made a direct payment or signed up for Patreon during the course of this show, I won't have your name yet, but I would like to say a big thank you to Carol, Karen, Abby, and Sasha, and also Kate as well, who are all people that have sent through direct payments or signed up for Patreon over the last week and a half. That money coming in has made a massive difference to us. It's enabled us to do things like, for example, buy this speaker so that we can record sound better. So if you notice that the sound is better, it's not because I'm better at projecting than Katie. Although I am, it's because no, I'm joking. She's sitting over there. But it's you can see right here that the contributions are totally making a massive difference to our work, and so we really appreciate it. And if you want to join those people and get thanked and credits and stuff, the details for our Patreon and also our bank account details are up in the blurb on the side. Katie has asked me who is the better director out of me and her. I would say that we have quite different styles, and as performers, we need different things. To give a very short answer instead of a really long, diluted one, we work really well as a team. We've had ups and downs in the first year as we work out exactly what it is the other person needs to reach the peak, the pinnacle, the climax of their abilities. And we seem to have done that. We know what the other person needs and also what they want. And sometimes those are not exactly the same thing. Okay, so I think that's all of the questions. I'd like to say a big thanks to the people that are still watching, and also to Jen, Abby, Ryan, Emma, Kate, Catriona, Jen. I think that's everyone. This has been an hour and a half. Like I say, comments and details for our Patreon are in the blurb. Next week? Announcing next week?
Yep.
Okay, so just for context, these two shows that we've just done, Merry Wives last week and Much Ado this week, are both shows that have toured. Merry Wives has done 45 performances all over New Zealand and will hit the road again at some point. Much Ado has had fewer performances so far, but it has been to a few locations. They're both shows that we've done several times each on stage. But because we are enjoying having people in the comments and being able to perform for you live on the internet, I am pleased and slightly nervous to announce that Katie will be doing a solo read of Shakespeare's The Merchant of Venice next week at the same time on our Facebook page. That is 3 p.m. GMT plus 12 at facebook.com/Sparrow and Boyle. You can see Katie Boyle in a solo version of The Merchant of Venice. This is a show that we've never... Katie's been in Merchant of Venice before, but never done it solo, so it will be a slightly different vibe to these ones and much more sort of reader, she'll be using the script is basically what I'm saying here. Thanks heaps for joining us. Any comments or ideas, just drop us a message. We'd love to hear about other things you'd like to see. Thanks heaps. I'm Alexander Sparrow, and this was Sparrow and Boyle's live stream version of Alexander Sparrow and Much Ado About Nothing. See you in a week.